I was hoping if I was quiet for a minute, Dad would maybe hear that. Thank you, brother. I think the little ones are going to be going back from Sister Susan and Sister Carolyn's class to go on back. You know what was funny? I say funny, but it's not funny, I had, matter of fact, I was going to tell you, I know that I say it's for young adults, but I've been actually printing up my lessons for the young adult class. And I'll be honest with you, God has really been leading me in this. And if anybody would like these, I've put in the scriptures and things like that, but I'll be glad to print off some of these and give these to you. But I said that to say this, you know, this morning our class, I keep asking them, I said, hey, do y'all have a topic you want me to talk about? And a lot of times they're like, no, you just keep doing, you know, I'm like, I don't know what. Okay, is this yours there? Sorry, I wasn't going to descript it. That's why I came up. Whose pin that is? It's another pin. Must have been a TJ's. Oops. But I felt led to have my lesson this morning on fear and how it consumes you. Yeah, these ladies were laughing and smiling because guess what? The whole e-conference was over. Fear. And so guess what, Brother Kerry? I had help in my class today because these ladies were able to help teach. Now, I think Sister Sharice might have opened up, and Sister Felicia did too, and they kind of opened up because they were back there. They were able to help me out with my Sunday school class. Did I turn it on? There it is. I'm sorry. But I said it was funny, but the truth is it's just amazing that I feel led. You know, I'm like going, I don't know what to teach on this Sunday. I don't know what. For some reason, some things that happen in my own life and things that happen in our lives every day. And fear was just what I felt like talking about this morning. And so, I thank God that He leads, guides, and directs us if we'll let Him. And this morning, I felt like He led me to something. And I'd like to turn to the book of Genesis. Should be an easy one to find, guys. It's the first book in the Bible. Chapter 4. I'd like to start reading with verse 1. Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, with the help of the Lord, I brought forth a man. Later she gave birth to his brother, Abel. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked in the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. And the Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering. But on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. I want you to see this. Then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, you will not, if you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do what is wrong, but if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the fields. While they are in the fields, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, where's your brother Abel? I do not know, he replied. Am I my brother's keeper? The Lord said, what have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. I'd like to pray. Father, I just pray, God, that your Holy Spirit lead, guide, and direct everything that's being done today, Lord Jesus. And I pray, God, that you would just help me, Lord God, to bring forth your word the way you put it in my heart and my soul. Lord Jesus, I realize, Lord God, that this message is needed. God, I pray, Lord, help me, Lord, in your name. Amen. Amen. I titled my message, I know that I have actually preached on this a long time ago. I preached on this and I said, am I my brother's keeper? And I believe we are. But I titled this message, Being My Brother's Keeper. Being my brother's keeper. I tell you what I noticed about this when the Lord put this in my spirit, and I thank God Sister Shafani did, because it ain't nothing that I'll be honest with you, I never thought about this scripture that way. But the Lord showed me that Cain and Abel were the church. Cain and Abel are the church of today. You believe that? I want you to notice something. Cain and Abel both brought a sacrifice to God. So in other words, they were going through the motions. Could you say it that way? Matter of fact, Cain being the oldest, I wondered to myself, I'll tell you what, I've actually read these scriptures before, and I wondered to myself, God, how come, and I'll be honest with you, I'm that way sometimes, I'm just thick, but I sometimes go, God, that doesn't seem half fair. They both brought a sacrifice. Just because Cain brought food, or brought vegetables, and he brought the fat of the... But what the problem was not the offering. It was the heart behind the offering. If you'll even look at it, you'll see that Cain brought some, it just says he brought some from the crops, some of the fruit from the crops. It doesn't say he picked out the best ones, or that he picked out the ones that would just, I'm sure God, he gave us all these trees, right? He gave us all these plants. I'm sure he loves good vegetables as much as any of us. I know some of you kids are going, but I happen to like vegetables. Matter of fact, I had a brother saying the other day, he made a mistake and made some Brussels sprouts. I think it was Brother Kerry, and he said, I was wrong. I don't like them. I actually like Brussels sprouts. Now, I've had some that are kind of strong and bitter. I like turnips. I'll be honest with you, only vegetable I've ever eaten that I didn't like, and some of y'all are going to say, I love them. I hate beets. They're like dirt to me. But, and listen, you said you like beets, brother? You saying you like beets, brother? Oh. Yeah, I agree. That's even worse. Amen, sister. Even worse, I know. But that's everybody. It's got that difference. But I wondered to myself, but what he did was it says he just brought some, hey. Can I tell you a story about myself? Can I use one of these dollars? I tell you what I would do. I'll put, she's like giving me, okay, I'm going back. Don't jump up. No. But when I first started serving God and I first started going to church, and know this message is not about giving an offering, although that's always a part of it. Whether you want to say all churches and all ministers, if you've been around this church, matter of fact, during the revival, I forgot to take up an offering one night because we don't take up offerings here. It's just not something we do. I just don't think about that. I know God supplies a need, so I guess I think he just switches it. I don't know what. He takes care of it. But when I was a young minister, well, not a young minister, but when I was young in church, just had gotten saved, and I was bringing my family to church, and I'd been in church for a while, but I want to tell you, I'm going to be honest about how I was. And if this is you, say, oh me, or oh my, or whatever, but maybe if I had a $20 bill in my front pocket, and I was a poor boy, didn't have no money. I had to work all the time, and for us to go to McDonald's was a big deal. I know Sister Loma's going, that's not a big deal, that's a horrible thing. But some of us, now that I've got a little more money in my pocket, I'd rather go to somewhere else. I'd rather go to the Leona's. But there's not a Leona's in Wilburton, but I'd rather go have steak, but I can't have that all the time. But when I was a young man and I had no money, working, 3 kids, we got married at 17. Never had it. It was just tough. But when I started going to church and I started feeling like I needed to give an offering, and I'd been going for a while, Sister Michaela, and I would have a $20 bill in my pocket, or maybe I had a few of them, from payday or whatever, and I'd look at that 20 and I'd go, well, I can't give that whole thing. I'm being honest. I would stop at the gas station on the way, the Easy Mart, the Jim Bob's then, and I would get a package of gum. I didn't even need the package of gum, but I'd get a package of gum so I could break the 20, so that I could give, and what I really liked was, if I just got a package of gum, the reason I liked to get a package of gum, Sister Loma was like, I can't believe he's going in for more. But that way there, I could roll up like $4, make it look like more, and throw it in the offering. I'm being honest. It's because I was like, and I did that. I hate to say it, but I did it for a couple of years, I know. I would go and I would, if I didn't have change, if I didn't have some singles or something like that, I'd be like, you know what? I got to stop. I should have done this before, but yeah, I got to stop and get a pack of gum so I can break this 20. And one day, after years of serving God, one day I was just like, it's just stupid, Ken. Why are you breaking it? I don't know what's God. He said, why are you making change? Why don't you just throw the whole 20 in? Just trust it. Just do it. You feel better about it if you just do it. And I can't even remember when I started doing it, but all of a sudden, and you know what? Maybe that's when things changed for me. I just started giving. Just started giving. Just giving an offering. Not because the church needed it, not because they came to me and said, because it just felt like the thing I needed to do. I believe that what Cain and Abel show us is that, to me, this is the church. You know, I see to myself that Cain and Abel both brought a sacrifice. I wonder to myself, I don't know that it never says that God came down and said, listen, thou shalt sacrifice to me. I'm guessing that what happened is that Mom and Dad, Brother Lynn, probably showed him. You know, this is what we do. You know, God did this for us. He killed an animal and He sacrificed it for us. So this is what God expects of us. We need to, you know, this is just something He takes care of us, so we're going to sacrifice to Him to let Him know we love Him, that we're going to sacrifice to Him. And I'm guessing Cain and Abel picked up on this, and you know, like, well, Mom and Dad says, how many of y'all have been there? Mom and Dad drug me to church. My mom's not going to get off my back until I go to church. Grandma's not going to get, you know what? Grandma's going to keep harping on me until, when we get older, Grandma's going to keep harping on me until I get to church. My aunts and uncles, my great aunts, they were all like Grandma. Imagine having more than one grandma. All of my great aunts were just like all my grandmas. And it's like, they're never going to get off me until I just go to church. I come back from the Navy, my wife had gotten saved, and she's in church. She ain't going to ever, she's going to give me that look every time she walks out the door until I just get in the car with her and go to church. And you know what the problem was, is when I was going to church, I still had that mentality. Still had that heart. And I want to tell you what happened. And I want to tell you what happened with me. And what I feel like was wrong with Cain is he was doing the bare minimum to get by with God. And there's a warning in this message, and there's a warning from God in this thing. You know that when Cain was doing the bare minimum, this thing didn't just go unnoticed. God Himself steps out of heaven and says, listen, Cain, why are you mad? You know in your heart that you gave me the bare minimum to get by. Abel gave me of the first fruits. He went through a lot of work to get me. Not only did he take his first, the first of his litter, before he got some, before anybody else got some, he took the first ones, the best ones, and he cut the fat. He went through a lot of work to give me a good sacrifice. He didn't stop at the grocery store and get gum so that he could break it down and give me what was left of it so that he'd still have 15 or 16 or 17. Maybe I threw $1 in there a lot of times, Brother Cal, and I kept the 18 and the pack of gum. Praise God, Sister Tori, the least I could have done is throw the pack of gum in the offering. That's the least I could have done. And that's the problem. So many times when it comes to church and when it comes to God, we want to give Him the least. And I want to tell you something. The Lord gave me this message, and He's telling me to tell the church that, listen, the least doesn't get it. What was sad about this message is that when God talks to Cain and says, listen, Cain, why are you downcast? Why is your face down? You know what He said in today's terms? He said, you know what you did. If you do right, you'll feel right. But if you do wrong, you're going to feel wrong. So if you're upset with anybody, Cain, it needs to be with yourself. And what's so sad about this story is, like so many of us, that the preacher gets up here and he says, God says, listen, you got to get in. God says, listen, you got to give your whole heart. You've got to do what God, you can even, forget the preacher. You can be listening to a song and you know that God's wanting more from you. And I'm not asking you to give more than all. I'm telling you, He wants all of you. He wants that package of gum out of your pocket. If that's what He wants, give it to Him. Quit holding back. Quit giving God what little bit you got left over. Quit giving God what little bit you can stand. You know what? God, I might have this situation. You know what? I only got $20. Man, I hate to throw that in there. Might need it. Can I tell you the difference in my heart now? I'll be at Roy's. I'll be at Roy's. And if I reach in my pocket, those kids, you know, these kids are just students that are carrying your groceries out there. Some of them are moms and dads. Some, I know, I've had them all. And they'll bring my groceries out there. And I'll reach in my pocket, Sister Home, but if I pull in my pocket and I see that, man, all I got is a $20 bill. And I'll look right at them and go, you know what? I guess God wanted you to have this. That's all I had. I'm like, instead of giving the least, I'm like, God, if that's what you want them to have, hey, listen, if I got $2 in my pocket, hey, I'll give them the $2. If I got 5, that's what they get. Whatever I got. I know some of them are like, ooh, I hope you hit the jackpot with that boy today. I imagine they talk to each other. Hey, you know what? If you go out there and he just happens to not have any dollar bills, he'll give you a 20. And whatever he's got on him, that's what you're going to get. I said that to say this. Instead of giving God the least, what is so sad about this story is God says, listen, hey, this is on you. This ain't on Abel. This ain't on the preacher. This ain't on how the message was. This doesn't matter how good the music was. This is on you, Cain. If you had the right heart, that's what God was saying. If you got the right heart, Cain, you'd have given the right offering. You'd have known what you would have went out there and said, God, all I got's fruit, but here's all of it that I have. This is, you know, I don't have any animals. All I got is a bunch of bananas. But I'm not giving you the ones that are brown and need to be thrown away. I'm giving you every banana I've got. As a matter of fact, I'll eat the old nasty ones, God. You get the best ones. You can't tell me that if he'd have done that God wouldn't have said, I accept you. I accept it. Some people say it was because it was fruit and not meat. I honestly believe it was because it was just some fruit. It was just some of the stuff. It was whatever he had that was handy. It was whatever was convenient. How many of us, and I don't want you to raise hands unless you feel led of God, how many of us go to church when it's convenient? How many of us go and pray when it's convenient for us, when it's not something we want to, you know, well, this my favorite TV show's coming on. God, I really don't want to. Somebody's calling right now. God, I really don't want to talk. I know this person's going to have a problem, and they're going to want to pray, and they're going to talk about this problem. Man, the show just started. Do I have to right now? I'll call them back. You know what I'm doing when I'm doing that? I'm doing the same thing that Cain did. And what's the problem with that? I think this whole story has a lot to tell us. You know, Cain and Abel are the same as Peter. Cain had the same heart that Peter had. Peter. Jesus himself comes to Peter and he goes, when they're in the garden, he says, listen, Peter, I need you to pray. And Peter, the whole time, I think he was thinking Jesus needed the prayer. But Jesus comes and tells him, Peter, you're going to fall into temptation. You're not going to be able to withstand this temptation unless you start praying. And when he comes back, what did you find him? He's asleep again. God himself steps out of heaven. Jesus himself speaks to Peter, and yet Peter falls back asleep. Why? Because it doesn't seem to matter what the preacher says. It doesn't seem to matter what God's word says sometimes. We want what we want. And sometimes we want to just get by. I got to tell you a story that just popped in my heart. When I was a kid, I went down to the creek and it was froze over. And I thought, boy, howdy, I'm going to swing across. You ever seen those vines that grow up in the trees? It was around here, it was in Oklahoma. These trees that grow up in these vines that grow up in the trees. And it was pretty stout. You know, I was young, I pulled on it pretty hard. I thought, I'm going to swing across this creek. That's going to be fun. Tarzan the Jungle Man. I'm going to do it. You know, kids are stupid. So I take off, and as I swing across out in the middle of this creek, the vine comes pulling loose from the tree. And I go right through the ice. And I'm holding on to this vine, and I'm stuck out in the middle of this creek, and I'm just freezing to death. Water just rushing over. Ah! And then I had to walk home about 10 blocks. Sopping wet, frozen. Oh, it was so cold. Truth is, I knew that ice was thin. I knew that ice was thin. If this doesn't work, I'm going to go right through. How many of us think that, all right, God, you ever heard the old saying? We have an old saying us old timers do. You're getting on thin ice. My mama used to say, you're getting on thin ice with me, boy. You better watch it. And that's when you knew, I better step back off the creek. So many of us live on thin ice with God. And the problem with that situation is some of us, maybe we'll stay up there for a while, Brother Kerry. Maybe the ice will hold. I can't tell you how many times, Brother Kamari, I went to bed and said, maybe God won't come back this week. That's what I was saying, wasn't it? When I was giving him the minimum, when I was going to church when I wanted to go to church, when I was praying when I wanted to go to church, or when I wanted something, I prayed, but when it wasn't important to me, I wouldn't pray. To tell you the truth, Sister Tori, I was a person that as I grew with God, what happened was that I would pray, and I would read the Bible, and I would give him the offering when I was at church. We all seem to have no problem with dressing up and playing church. I don't mean to say it that way, but I guess that's the way it came out. We have no problem with coming to church and being like church or being like Christians while we're here. Oh, I'll pray. Oh, I'll sing. I'll believe with you. I'll worship. You know what I think the difference was? Is Abel was one of them that when he got away from God, he was thinking about God. When Abel left the presence of God, he could still feel it. Just because God wasn't standing right there, just because the pastor's not standing in the same room with you, does not mean that we're not supposed to be Christian. Amen?
Amen.
Just because the people that are sitting here today are not with you doesn't mean that we don't still need to pray. The truth is, if you're having to act like a Christian, then you probably aren't one. There's no acting involved in Christianity. Does that make sense? Cain was one of those that I feel like was so blessed because God stepped out of eternity into a time and said, Cain, listen, buddy, I've done it before. Rubbing the head of my grandkids. Some of the kids in here, buddy, sweetheart, sugar, you can't do this. Can you hear God's voice? Cain, you're upset because you did wrong. Now, listen, you need to get that out of your heart. Cain, you need to get your life straight. You need to start thinking straight. Or else, sin is going to get you. Sister, would you mind backing up? I think it was verse 7. But if you do not what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you. But you must rule over it. You know what's so sad about this story? I know it's getting late. I need to quit. And I can quit. Because I tell you what. You know what's so sad about this story? And I have more scriptures and I'll bring them up if God leads me. But what the saddest part about this message is, and the saddest part about this story is that God warns and warns. Tells them, listen, this is on you. Don't you be mad. Don't you be upset. If you can't, and he tells them, listen.